There's been a ton of discourse around the Fallout show when it involves the New Vegas canon. Now, I made a video pretty much right after the show came out, letting everybody know my thoughts about the potential retcons, and letting everybody know that I'm pretty sure New Vegas is still canon, because they may have been confused on some things that they saw in the show. Luckily, we have some confirmation on this, and I just wanted to talk about it in a video today. In the original video that I made talking about this, I explained that there's a chalkboard in the show where Lucy comes into Vault 4 and she sees the history of Shady Sands because there's a lot of people that were moved from Shady Sands into Vault 4. They made that pilgrimage. She sees on a chalkboard that the fall of Shady Sands happened in 2277, which is before the events of New Vegas, as New Vegas happens in 2282, I'm pretty sure. Anyway, so when looking at this board, we know that Shady Sands got nuked. Lucy and Maximus arrive at Shady Sands. It's a big crater in the ground. And then we also see a mushroom cloud drawn on the timeline. Something that I pointed out, because a lot of people are like, well, that means that Shady Sands was nuked before the events of New Vegas, making a whole bunch of things in New Vegas not canon, and nobody talks about it in New Vegas. It would have been a giant event. Kimball comes from Shady Sands to talk to people at Hoover Dam. So how did he do that if it's been nuked? And it led to a lot of questions and a lot of, like I said before, discourse about this topic. I posed the idea that the timeline says the fall of Shady Sands happened in 2277. I took that to be some kind of political fall or social fall. When I saw that, it looked like they had a bunch of problems and then they got nuked, because we see an arrow that points further down the timeline and then to a nuke. If the nuke happened in 2277, it would have been labeled in that same timeline, though I do understand the confusion. This led to some content creators with sizable followings informing everybody that New Vegas was then retconned and that Shady Sands was nuked in 2277, which led to a lot of people who didn't watch the show and were just taking reviews as they came, making their decisions before they watched the show, hearing about this, getting turned off by the show, and then, spreading this information online that New Vegas is now non-existent. Was a big comment that I saw that, Bethesda completely erased New Vegas in the show, which isn't the case. We see New Vegas at the end of the show. People misinterpreting House's cameo. Instead of asking questions about why Mr. House would be meeting with Vault-Tec and all these different corporate entities, they just assumed that, quote, Bethesda was, ruining Mr. House. I think that the scene Mr. House appears in actually adds a lot to his character that we see in game, and it seems like they may have some interesting plans involving him in future seasons. Judging by whatever Hank is doing traveling to New Vegas, we can only assume that since he was around in the pre-war and House was around the Vault-Tec people where Hank was working, that they may have had some kind of interaction and he may know that Mr. House is set up in New Vegas. Regardless, the show, I think, did a good job of encapsulating the environment of Fallout, the universe of Fallout, and telling a really good story in the medium of a television show as opposed to the games. We're only used to really playing through them. Regardless of how I feel about it, a lot of people were taking, there's people and people coming to their own conclusions, content creators coming to their own conclusions about things is fine. That's not a problem, but that's something that I did. I came to the conclusion that Shady Sands likely got nuked after 2277. And just because that has been confirmed to be true now doesn't mean it was back then. And we were both, I guess, in a kind of equally right situation. Me and any content creator that was saying that, or anybody online rather, who's posting comments or replies or whatever, memes, whatever it may be, anybody posting, New Vegas is retconned and this whole thing ruins New Vegas timeline. Both of us are kind of equally right until it gets confirmed. So coming to your own conclusions as at least somebody who makes videos on YouTube is fine. That's something you should do. You should be looking at, everything that you can on the topic and then trying to come to a conclusion and asking your audience what they think. This is all normal stuff. But it just made sense to me when I saw the chalkboard that arrow pointing to the bomb later on down the line meant that happened after 2277. So let's get to the confirmation where we know now that these events happened after New Vegas. We go to an article on IGN.com where Todd Howard is talking about the show, and this is what is said. According to Howard, showrunners Graham Wagner and Geneva Robertson Dorette came to him with the idea to blow up Shady Sands. Something Howard says shocked him at first, but the event would serve as a catalyst for the main characters of the Fallout show, and the showrunners worked with Howard and the Bethesda team to ensure it remained consistent with the games. And we talked through it, and this would be a pretty impactful moment that a lot of things anchor on, Howard says. But for anyone confused about how the city could be blown up by the time the show takes place, Howard explains all the details of the timeline should line up. We're careful about the timeline, he says. There might be a little bit of confusion in some places, but everything that happened in the previous games, including New Vegas, happened. We were very careful about that. All I can say is we're threading it tighter there, but the bombs fall just after the events of New Vegas. So what Todd Howard is referring to here is that just after the events of New Vegas, which means probably a bit after the second Battle of Hoover Dam, Shady Sands was then nuked, presumably by Vault Tech, because Hank admits to doing it because Moldaver was involved in this perfect city of Shady Sands. Hank's wife, the mother of Lucy, decided that she wanted to live in Shady Sands and bring the kids to her to this new above ground settlement in Shady Sands, opposed to staying in the vault. Hank's big thing is that the vault's missions are to repopulate the top, according to at least the common vault dweller. And so if somebody is already on the surface and doing better than Vault Tech, that doesn't really look good for Vault Tech. But there's also this added tension where Hank's family is also being taken from him to this new place. So in order to stop that, Hank, presumably in correlation with Vault Tech, ends up dropping nukes on Shady Sands. So it's kind of like a post-apocalypse. Something that also a lot of people were like, well, I understand that it's canon, and I understand that these things may have happened after New Vegas, but why is Bethesda just destroying Shady Sands? This is such a big deal for them. Why are they just killing the NCR? There's no NCR left. I don't think that there's no NCR left. I don't think that the destruction of Shady Sands is going to completely wipe out the NCR. Is it a big hit to them? Yes. Do we only see one squad of them in the show? Yes. But we're also not into the Mojave proper, where they could have, we see a bunch of bases, 10s, 20s of NCR outposts and bases inside the Mojave area. And then we also have any other territories because they lay claim to almost a quarter of the western United States and down into Mexico. There's NCR presence and control in a lot of those areas. Shady Sands may be their capital, but it doesn't mean that they're wiped off just because a squad of theirs gets wrecked at an observatory, and also now all of a sudden, Shady Sands isn't there anymore. In fact, the people in the Mojave that were under the NCR flag, the soldiers, the troopers, even the officers in the NCR army, complained often that they never got support from Shady Sands. Nothing ever came from Shady Sands, and morale was at an all-time low, which is why Kimball coming in was such a big deal. So Shady Sands not being there isn't going to it's going to be sad for the people in the NCR that may be in the Mojave area. It's going to be sad for people that came from that area, may have family in that area. But when it comes to them getting actual support, they get it from elsewhere much more than they get it from Shady Sands directly, at least from what we see in New Vegas. And to go back to the topic of people wanting to be upset with Bethesda about the fate of Shady Sands, this is something that's been in the cards for that area for a very long time. Chris Avalon had ideas of destroying Shady Sands. Van Buren may have featured a destroyed Shady Sands, or at least talked about, not featured in game as like a map location, but at least talked about Shady Sands being destroyed by similar fate. So this isn't just something that Bethesda dreamed up. And in fact, Todd confirms in the interview that the showrunners came to him and asked him about it. And what I think probably happened is they probably looked at Fallout lore videos, wiki posts, things of that nature, and saw that that was something that was planned back in the day, and they thought that maybe, you know, pushing that narrative forward would make their stories more impactful, like Todd Howard says. So I just wanted to get this video out because I'm still seeing comments of people like claiming this information, and like saying that that New Vegas is erased from the show, and the timeline doesn't make sense and stuff like that. I've been encouraging people to watch the show and just, you know, see for themselves and make their own opinions, and that's what I'm still doing. I give it a very high rating. The other day I posted a 9.5 out of 10. I think it's one of the best pieces of Fallout media we've ever received. Fallout needed this win, so I'm very excited to see what else they have in store. So thank you for checking out the video. Like I said, Todd Howard confirmed that the bomb that dropped on Shady Sands did so after the events of New Vegas, which to me, from everything I've read online, has been one of the biggest problems people have with the timeline and the lore in the show. So now that's confirmed, hopefully people can take a step back and enjoy the show for what it is, which is a really good adaptation of Fallout into a television series. Again, thank you for watching. What do you think about the New Vegas canidity? Let me know down in the comments. What do you think about the show? Let me know in the comments. And I will definitely see you on the next one. It has been Mantis.